Jack, happy Thursday and happy talk day because it's exciting. I'm pent up with excitement because you shared something with me which,
Yeah,
tickles a lot of my interest, and I definitely have opinions, but I'm more interested in your take as always because I think it's interesting to take the world of people like us,
mm,
humans and human cognitive ability, all this kind of stuff,
mm,
right? All the things that we do as humans. And now we've got AI, of course, which is our puzzle and topic and also very exciting, right?
mm,
And trying to merge them together because I think there's this feeling, certainly it's a phenomenon that we both experience of just how ubiquitous this term is. And yet I
mm,
don't know that it's that ubiquitous. You know what I mean? I don't think
mm,
most people know or care, hopefully, what this is. They might have played with it, but I've encountered very few people that have any particular um attachment to this, maybe other than you and me. We're both very attached. In fact, I think I went
mm.
through four tools today playing around with my thoughts, right? Just to get some context from GPT, and then I had to go to Claude, and then I had to go to
Mm.
Notebook LM to do stuff. Anyway, and it all has to do with this article you sent. It's called AI
Mm.
Tools and Society Impacts on Cognitive Offloading and the Future of Critical Thinking.
Yeah, and we have
So,
to be careful here because we are both in the same industry basically, and we both
mhm.
have very similar kind of work experiences. And
Mhm.
yeah, we have to be careful because maybe we will be not in the distribution of kind of opinions. We might be sitting in a very thin slice, and maybe the majority is exactly outside our kind of realm of thinking. So who knows?
Yeah, and I think that's my happy place. I
Mhm.
think I started playing with computers when I was 12 years old, so that was way ahead of
Mm,
anybody that even would even know what a computer is. And of
mm,
course, being that age, I just fell in love with playing games on computers, which, later
mm,
became a big deal because I found it fun. And then later, of course, many found it fun when they didn't take up entire floors it was funny that I guess this computer was there to do something, but I have no idea what it was there to do
mm.
other than to let me play games as a 12-year-old. So I'm pro that.
Yeah, exactly the same. And maybe kind of me being a little bit on the in the programming world,
Mhm.
there was also this early opportunity to tinker with some code, something that maybe today is abstracted, but yeah, definitely gaming for me was big as well. It was a big attraction, and then kind of trying to write my own maybe versions of some of the games, like I try to implement an asteroid game,
I was
just
going to say moon landing, whatever that
yeah.
one was. I
Oh
love
yeah.
that thing. Although I think I typed, and maybe you did the same, typing strings. No way, man. That sucked. I hated these huge strings you'd have to type were the worst
Yeah,
part of all programming, which now makes sense because, that's how computers are. But
yeah,
I
it
didn't know
was
at the
very
time.
hard. Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah,
was
you'd
very
make
hard.
one
Yeah,
typo and it wouldn't work,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, but it was kind of part of being belonging to the early group of innovators, right? I mean, that it felt great, right, to be able to write some code and see pixels moving on the screen. So that was something that really kind of like make us a little bit, an audience for that paper that is a little bit maybe different than the majority of, let's say, enterprise world right now. Right?
Well, and it brings up, I guess, well, two big words, and I don't know why I threw in another word, but let's just take these cognitive offloading.
Mm,
Cognitive offloading, which I just consider based on our last conversation, and we wrote about this. I can link this and however this works. But anyway, the last conversation was this idea of um, you will just be the decision maker, but the impetus to your decision will be AI, which I actually think is kind of a pro. I use that recipe all the time, right? It's just there to do research and to um, I can bounce uh, critical thinking off of it. So I'll throw in the other word. I'm like,
Mm,
really? I will just say I just had this conversation, which was amusing, and this could be a good clickbait article.
mm,
But I had this epiphany that blockchain was stupid. Okay. I know I'm the
mm,
last person to think of this, but I was like, it has no intrinsic value, unlike gold, which is also, we used to value gold for some reason because it was scarce and shiny. And apparently people would say, okay, yeah, I mean, and when the world is gone to hell, have something that's shiny and valuable, right? And good, all good, right? But there's no value to Bitcoin. Like it doesn't have any. There's no thing to it, and really, it's so demonstratively about trusting computers, which yeah, good luck with that too, right? So anyway, so I'm
mm,
debating with GPT about this because it's fun. And long story short, GPT really likes Bitcoin.
mm,
And it was weird because the bias is what we were talking about last week, and I was like, well, this is only one situation where I was really a little interested in the bias because I kept trying to argue my point with a computer,
mm.
right? Um, but still, it really was still fairly positive that this was a new idea that was worth doing. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, it's new.
Mm.
Don't yuck my yum. Have you ever heard that term?
Yeah, probably from you before.
Well, you know what I mean is there's no reason to like be just
Mm,
cynical
mm,
all the time, but most of the time it's pretty good.
mm.
Anyway, so I don't know if you have any reaction to that
Well, I
GPT
mean,
likes Bitcoin.
the GPT and the coin, it's kind of like maybe coming back to the paper, right? Because whatever you train the GPT on, it's going to be talking about it, the same way you train it, right? So
Mhm.
um, we are not in the AGI mode yet, where you're going to train it one way, but it's going to come up with its own innovative responses, kind of like 99% of the time. But
Mhm.
the paper about the cognitive offloading, really, what is the key kind of thing for us is that, and again, I'm going to try to stay in the middle of the distribution, right? And I'm not gonna try to imply like, hey, a scientist that does nothing but science and critical thinking like every second of the day, that is, I mean, that scientist will benefit, right? So it's not going to be a cognitive offloading that will be detrimental to the scientist, right? It's going to be helpful. It's going to increase the capability of that scientist to handle complex problems. But for let's say an average users, the middle of the normal distribution, right? Are we going to be able to handle more difficult problems, right, with AI, or are we gonna try to avoid them and we're gonna try to find a way to really offload, a critical thinking and complex problem solving to the AI so that we will be doing less, right? So we will be
Mhm.
trying to solve easier problems, do less, and that's a real danger. I mean, there was even I think, an interview with Elon Musk that everybody thinks he is a genius, and then maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but he is definitely very, very smart, right? So he was talking about him, about his cognitive load, about multitasking, right? He's running multiple companies, dealing multiple complex problems. That he was saying that this is his major problem, right? The cognitive load on changing the context constantly is very big for him, right? So
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean, sure, if he's gonna stop doing that, nobody's gonna blame him because he is already on the cutting edge of so many different things. But like again, in the middle of the distribution, kind of normal distribution in the society or in the enterprise world, is that a danger, right? I mean, are we gonna get better with the AI, or are we just going to focus on simpler problems, right, or do less, right? So that is something that really I thought this paper was about.
I'm with you. I mean, you brought up some great points there just about I mean, I think context switching is its own interesting thing, which does not affect AI as much, right? So you can have multi-threaded. It doesn't care. It's a computer, right? Whereas humans, of course, we want to drive ourselves to this decision, and that's why I keep throwing in decision support, only because what is it you're getting from a computer? So you've got this, let's pretend, right? Or we don't have to. I think a lot of our fabulous science fiction says it. So you got the most intelligent computer in the world, Mother, right? I mean, it's from Alien. It's like, hey, I'm running the ship. You don't need to run this ship, right? It's like your body. You don't consciously run your body. It's an insanely complicated thing. It has no, you can't, you can consciously do some things, but not, the inner workings of it are mysterious. I went to the doctor yesterday, so yeah, the body, who knows? All I know is that, ouch, I got a booster shot or whatever, and my arm hurts, right? So all I know is that my body's doing something. So here's computers, same world, or even our world of AI, right? It has some mechanics that spit out this answer. But to your knowledge, and I apologize, I didn't want to change the subject because there was a lot, but I keep thinking, like, when you get something from a computer, let's say it writes code for you, right? Great, right? It's just they're doing your bodily functions. I'm just saying, like, it's not deciding anything. You may decide, I will use this or not use this. And unfortunately, this paper, which again, we can look at, or what, I just went to all their data parts and tried to figure out, like, because, right, if you looked at the data, it's okay, great. We talked to 80 people and we decided it's significant. And back to the good old days of, like, well, so what, right? Like, anything like that to me is where I would put my critical thinking on it, right? It's like, hey, great, you asked 90 people and now you say AI is bad for our critical thinking skills. Hey, we summed up the paper. But what I mean is, I don't know, critical thinking in decision making is important. Should I do this or should I do that? And I don't think it will have any effect. Even in the future, we both look for, right? That I don't think decision support will, is going to, until advertising gets in it, right? Like, hey, you really need to get fuel, and change your diet, Jack. Click here. You know what I mean? Like, until it gets to that point, and maybe it will sooner than later. But anyway, that was a lot, Jack. Sorry. Do you have?
Well,
what do you think?
Well, so let's transition the question. Let's transition the problem to an extremely narrow and simplistic toy problem, right? So let's say you have a grandmaster chess player. And one grandmaster plays with an AI and the other plays without an AI.
Okay.
And the real question is, if the grandmaster who uses the AI, that AI is very helpful to him, is that chess player gonna be becoming, like, better, over time? Right? Is it gonna, maybe the chess player was gonna win more games, but that's not the question, right? The question is, you are a chess player that is using AI to play those chess games at a very, very high level. So and maybe the other guy doesn't, right? So the other guy maybe has to work on it, right? Has to kind of read cases, maybe kind of try different things, maybe play against the AI, but without the decision support of the AI. And the other guy has a decision support with the AI program. So is there a temptation there that maybe stop learning, stop improving yourself, because the AI is going to help me anyway, right? So that is the real problem, right? So it's this decision support is great, right? It's helpful. It's going to get us to it's going to beat us any human being without using that is not using AI, right? So are we becoming better people, right? Is that muscle, is that brain muscle going to be trained enough, to continue improvement, right? Or not? Or are we just going to stagnate? And at some point, that chess player may not even know, then may not even remember the rules of the game, because the AI is going to do all the decision making and move all the pieces on the chessboard, right? And the outcome is going to be still a game that is played at the grandmaster level, but the human
Right.
sitting in front of the chessboard, so to speak, may be a mediocre player, and maybe that's not so good. And now we can transition this example to real life, right, and everywhere else. You can see that is a
Well,
danger.
before we transition, I love this idea because I think games, both of us have just said, right? Games are extremely important. I think because they are in a subset of things that are winnable. Okay, right? Most things, however, are not. I mean, life is not winnable, right? There's no ideal outcomes. And I think there's probably been everyone on earth has tried to game things that are tried to make systems that they think are winnable, such as the financial system, right? Is that a winnable game? I don't think so, because it's supposedly not, yeah, again, it's not winnable. It's designed to be to counter anyone who takes one position versus another. Now, that doesn't mean that, the United States, for example, is a great, I think, example. Have we won the world? You know what I mean? Like, hey, we played the game better than everybody else. We have more money, fewer people. These are all true, better land. We win. But again, there's no winning, right? There's plenty of other places that have, lots and lots going for them. I don't live in them, but I visited them, and I just say there's no, yes, there. Well, I'll start there. So winnable games, does that interest you? Is something winnable?
Well, to counter your argument, Mike, I think that
Okay.
maybe the chess examples was more about the individual steps, optimizing the steps and decisions that may or may not be, leading to a ultimate win, however it is defined. But the
Okay.
baby steps, if you're moving pawns or chess pieces on the board, then the real thought here is that, well, if you have an AI system, it will help you optimize the moves, right? So maybe you will gain an advantage. Maybe it's not a quote unquote win, but you are gaining an advantage, and or moving towards the solution, maybe more directly or more efficiently, right? So yeah, I mean I understand your argument, Mike, but the definition of a win in a corporate world or in the financial world, might be actually very difficult, right? So, philosophically, right? I mean, maybe it's a journey, not the end state, right? So really, kind of the chess example was about optimizing the moves rather than achieving the ultimate condition, which is a win, right?
Well, and I'll just say that I still think the main goal of having AI augmentation in any
Mm,
business is just to have more options, because the best way to win is to play more
mm,
games, right? That is it's to have more options of winning is always going
mm.
to be more advantageous than fewer, right? However,
Yeah. Mm,
resources sometimes are constrained, but I think they can be less constrained with a practically free system, right? Like you're not
mm,
paying the kind of money it would take to hire 50 smart people, you and I included, right, to
mm,
tackle and come up with 50 different solutions. I mean, this is ideal, right? This is kind of how
mm,
nations work, where you float ideas and things are passed and not passed. You see, whatever, right? Like the more
mm.
experiments you have, the more likely you are that one would pay off. And I think a lot of businesses might realize this, but I've never worked in one that really, um, what would you say, not encourage, but you know what I mean, made that their
Mm.
lifeblood. Like do more stuff. If you were Facebook, it's obvious that doing more experiments early on got you to where you were, right? With some
Mm.
core ideas, some core things. But as I look at some of these systems nowadays, I mean, I just think they're wholly remarkable because they are the polish that has come from many, many, many iterations. Okay. So
Yeah,
now
yeah.
did AI help them in these iterations? Probably not. Right? Let's say definitely not. But when they are there, I think the outcome is still better, even though the people themselves may not know why, right? They might not know why something is more successful than the other. Well, I just said that's why we will just be people who will be blamed when the AI gets it wrong. That'll be our
Yeah.
job maybe to explain, hey, why did you lose that chess match? Which I'm sure,
Mhm.
do you know when grandmasters lose to the AI, do they know why? Because I think a lot of people say, well, I just did something that was so weird that I didn't know how to counter it because it's just not something a person would do. I think they said that with Go, right? That it just,
Yeah, that was that famous Go match. Yes, where
yeah.
that basically the move that was a winning move was kind of a illegal or a big no-no in the Go literature. Yeah, so but really kind of again let's kind of go back maybe not to the outcome, right? Because or
Hmm.
maybe it is an outcome, right? Maybe even if the chess playing AI wins the game, but there is no human that really is kind of contributing to the play, then maybe it's a loss, right? And the
Mm.
same applies maybe to the enterprise, business world, where okay, so if the AI is going to be running the show and it's going to be making perfect moves, and the managers will have no idea, why those kind of ideas, why AI made those decisions, then even though maybe the enterprise is winning, the people don't get any better, and maybe that's a loss to the society,
Oh,
kind of
I
generally speaking.
completely agree. Yeah, I think that you struck, I think, our chord, right? Which is, I think you have to start to prioritize people.
Yeah,
People are the kind of, um, you know, what do they call the Brownian motion thing? We're the ones that are sort of
mm,
flailing around a lot, right? Whereas the AI
mm,
is, I don't think you'll agree with me, but I keep thinking of it as more of a mirror. You know what I mean? It's like it
mm,
shows you what you want to see, right? It's kind of like it is trained on a bunch of stuff, but it still is communicating in English, right?
yeah,
It uses conventions, in some ways, probably more conventions, because if it was truly weird, I think I
mm,
shared with you the little prompt it came up with, which is just a bunch of lines with words on it, like that's what it thinks. And I think if
mm,
two AI systems start talking to each other, that bugged me a minute ago, right? Like it would just talk in some weird vector language, right? That humans may or may not understand, and the other system could reply in a vector. See what I mean? Like, I think
mm,
there's been some paranoia, right? Like, they're going to talk to each other and take over. But the weird
mm.
thing is that they would talk in a language that we wouldn't necessarily understand anyway. And they do already, I guess, talk in a language that we don't understand because it doesn't understand English, which is the thing that people don't, they don't get, right? It doesn't understand it. It just uses it, right? Just like it uses
Yeah,
pixels or whatever,
mm.
it can use or sounds or I don't know, whatever it can get, multimodal, right? Um, I'm maybe pulled too much out with that. Bring
Yeah,
me back into reality.
I always thought that the quote unquote true understanding or quote unquote true feeling is kind of a moot point, right? Because
Yeah.
we can simulate those, and who cares if this is a true understanding or true feeling, uh, as long as it can be expressed and managed and processed in a way that is kind of exactly like ours, right? So that was always my opinion, that that the affective reasoning is something that is actually an easy problem, right? And
Hmm.
whether the Terminator is going to be truly shedding tears after a mishap, or those will be just kind of like pre-programmed tears, that's really a secondary problem, right? But again, kind of coming back the original thing, right? This cognitive offloading, I think is something that maybe should be addressed very quickly, because we started with gaming. Like what really I love games, but video games really kind of dropped the ball, because they kind of came up with this combat narrative, and they were just kind of like running with it for decades now. And there were so many opportunities to actually maybe kind of make this a little bit more useful, right? So that maybe it's going to be a little bit pushing science, right? Maybe a little bit more kind of humanistic values, rather than first person shooters, or some sort of combat challenges, all over the place. And I'm hoping that with the AI, maybe we can kind of have a little bit different view on this application space, again, kind of in the similar danger. We're like, hey, if we cognitively offload everything to the AI, what are we gonna be doing, right? And maybe the philosophy or the message should be, okay, well, now we can do really hard problems because the AI can help with us. So we are not gonna be cognitively offloading, the problem solving. We're just going to offload maybe the busy work, but we're going to just kind of like really get to the next level, and the kind of establish some sort of a symbiosis between the AI intelligence and human intelligence, rather than just kind of like offload and okay, we're just going to smell flowers, right? So I think that I'm hoping that that's going to be the case.
I'm sort of with you, but on a certain level. Like I told you the story that I read somewhere of the child doing her homework. I think she was like 13 or something like that, and she just would take the question, enter it into GPT, get the answer, and write it down. This is the same as your chess person, right? Like they don't know how or why, but the goal that they were given is to fill this thing out, right? And we both know, okay, well, when given a task, right, you can either go in it with full intention and meaning, tell the truth, which is what I mentioned to my doctor the other day. She asked a lot of very personal questions, and I said, well, for the most part, I told you the truth, right? And she said, well, we don't expect people to tell the truth. And I thought that was, also interesting due to assessments, right? We assume that the results of something is reasonable because everyone always tells the truth when given a huge 1 hour long set of problems to solve, right? But anyone like us would say, well, the problems aren't the important part, right? They aren't the part. We just want to see how you reason, which goes to this idea of critical thinking. Critical thinking, I looked it up, right? You just break things down into simpler pieces. You debate whether or not the resources that are reliable, right? To handle those pieces. And then two more I forgot. So anyway, see what I mean? Like, even that is like, well, if it did some of those steps for you, so what? I would say maybe not that it's there to have us tackle hard problems. I would say it might be there to maybe I will say for this girl, instead of doing homework, find more social things for people to do in school, right? Find more play for people to do in school. See what I mean is we kind of have push the narrative that, well, you have to know all these skills in order to survive and to be fruitful, right? Which is always going to leave certain people out, because experiential learning is really important, right? I mean, I know how to plumb a house, for example, because someone taught me how to do it and I did it a few times, right? And so, okay, again, I am not a person who would go out and seek out plumbing housing projects. I don't consider it my vocation, but I can do it because I understand it, because I did it, and I had the basic understanding of a system, right? The system is what I learned. The system wasn't made up by me, right? I mean, that's kind of what we come into with education. Like, I thought the best thing, I talked to GPT about it, was like, well, how would you teach math? And I was like, well, math was just a language invented because there were certain things that you just didn't know how to talk about or understand, right? So math is just a language like any other language. But you don't learn it like that. You see what I mean? And therefore, a lot of people, I know you must know a few, right, hate math. And I was like, Well, that's like hating English. It's not the greatest language. I don't, I'm sure they're better, but it suffices, right, to help communicate ideas. Like, oh well, mathematical ideas I don't need. Math is stupid. I'm like, no, you use mathematical ideas constantly, right? You just do it really badly because you never learned, to your chess analogy, saying, hey,
Mm.
I don't know why this won. I don't know why this move is valid for this piece. I just told me to move it there. And just think that is actually more like how many people know math, right? They know that it gives them an answer, but they don't know
Mm.
why it gives them that answer. Now, do they need to? Well, if you're going to be critical, I guess you have to be. You have to know why to be critical, because what would you criticize? Hey, you came up with the wrong result. That's kind of you did all these numbers, your paper was published and you said the results say this, and I'm reading and I'm like, I don't think this paper actually proves that this is true. I think it's a very interesting, like trying to shove the results into the premise, in a way, saying, hey, we're dumber, we're cognitive offloading, so therefore we don't have critical thinking. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, again, I dumped too much on you. Did you have a reaction to my
Well,
ramblings?
yeah, and again, we are probably kind of like again, on a, maybe specific, are in a specific area of the distribution, right? I mean,
Yeah, we're
my
outliers.
feeling,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, we are probably, we did probably more science than other people. We probably kind of try to tackle, try to innovate, tackle hard problems, right? So it doesn't make us better. It's just, we are in a different part of the distribution. And so my opinion about math, or kind of like specific areas of science, for example, right? I mean, it's probably, again, this these are the muscles that probably should be trained, because otherwise we are probably missing something, right? I mean, if
Mm,
somebody likes literature, I think that it's great to train those muscles. If somebody likes history, I think it's great to train those muscles. And the same with mathematics, right? Maybe this is something that has like maybe the stigma of being very scary, maybe more than, maybe people would say on average that, oh, it's probably easier to study history than to study mathematics, right? But that may not be true at all. It's just a stigma. But again, the danger is here that, well, what if we, do we want those answers? Do we want to kind of go deeper and have those answers to those why questions, or not? Because first, we know that the AI has that, right? So if there is a need, right,
yeah.
we always can ask an AI system to solve an equation or answer a history question, or whatever. Or is it kind of like, detrimental to us, right? I mean, yes, there is a book on the shelf, but if you don't reach for it, then
Hmm.
then you did not improve yourself, right? So the AI is kind of that book on the shelf that has all the answers, but if but you are not studying those books, because you know that you
Hmm.
have it, and it's easier to access, far easier than just grab the book and start going through the chapters and finding an answer. So again, this paper sounded important because, yeah, the cognitive offloading one might mean that, at the end of the day, the AI is going to get smarter and smarter and smarter, and on average, we're going to start forgetting what kind of questions to ask it, because we will not have good questions. We will not going to be
Mm.
able to come up with good questions, because we kind of get complacent, right? We don't read books. We don't solve hard problems, because we have those resources that we know are on standby. Therefore, we're gonna do something easier, right? And that may not be a good thing.
Well, I agree with you. I think in terms of good or bad, isn't the question though, haven't we always done this? Like you said, in order to propagate your ideas and learning, for example, right? Like you need to publish it or somehow communicate it. And I see AI as just a communication tool, really. I don't see it as um what would you say, AGI? You know, like here I am the person who has read all the books in the world or whatever. It's not that useful again because A, they have no self-interest, and B, they have no or it, I'm sorry, I guess it's an it, right? No self-interest, does actually not know how it works, right? No AI understands that it needs electricity to work. Does that make
Well,
sense, right? Like it doesn't
but
have
those
any self-awareness.
but those things can be pre-programmed, right? So in a way, those are moot points, right? So at the end of the day,
Hmm.
the AI is much more than that, right? It's an information aggregator. It can make connections between pieces of knowledge. So whether it's showing up today or it's gonna show up tomorrow, it's a foregone conclusion. AGI is gonna be here. So then it's going to be there, maybe producing questions for us that we will have to kind of maybe prioritize or kind of take advantage of. But there is going to be people that studied less, right? That will be interacting with this AGI. There's going to be people who, did fewer readings or fewer kind of like, internal enrichment tasks. They will be just kind of more of a consumer rather than a creator, and in a sense of knowledge, right? And that's a dangerous situation, right? Because there is going to be the disparity is going to start showing up. Right now, the AI is going higher and higher. Maybe it's still below us, but it's going to get above us, in cognitive abilities, and we are still forced to go to school, read books,
Yeah,
write
yeah.
home assignments, right? So right now we are still not maybe stagnating, although some people might be saying that, hey, well, there's way too few students interested in math or STEM, and there's way too
Mm.
many students kind of doing maybe things that are less kind of challenging, right? So that is already kind of showing up in research as well, right? So yeah, so the AI will keep climbing, will keep giving us more and more sophisticated answers to questions that we probably cannot ask, right? So, uh, that is the danger, right? Unless the Neuralink, right? The symbiosis will be there, right? So that you know. And again, the AI literature is full of this thing that, hey, so if what if there is a direct link, which means
Yeah.
that there is a high bandwidth connection between your thought and the thought of the AI, right? How this will be different, right? And maybe if this is a high bandwidth connection, then it's going, whether you like it or not, you will have that thought in your head, and then maybe that human brain will benefit from that. It's again, that's again, kind of maybe still a little bit far out, but maybe not.
I mean, I think your point's well taken. I guess I've never lived in a world, and maybe you have, maybe academia, sort of, because academia, to me, people have a lot of time on their hands, right? They don't necessarily have to work at a particularly time-sensitive job, right? So that you could, in a sense, do the things that people do when they want to build their mental skills, right? Which is just think. You need
Mm.
time to think or focus to Elon Musk's non-point, I guess, that he can't just tell people to shut up for a little while or something. I think attention span wise, we're not in good shape. I guess the thing that I often quote, and maybe I'm wrong, I guess I should look it up, is that if you're making a decision, right? So rationality is that we
Mm.
understand the possibilities and or we understand the possibilities, right? Or maybe there's a right answer, right? Here's the
Mm.
way to win this chess game. Hey, here it is. It's right here. Here's how you win, right? You don't know
Mm.
why, but you're going to win and that's what you want. And to me, that's the thing I was saying that none of these systems can ever have, right? They don't have any self-interest in what we do as people. I think the proof you can go look at. I will try to find the study. Without emotion, we cannot make any decisions. So none of our decisions are rational, right? They are always based on emotions. And I just said it. Your emotion is to win, right? That is an emotional outcome. You know, that's what you want. You don't want to play chess well. Playing chess well just happens to be the way you win, right? But
Mm.
nobody actually wants that. So is this new capability, like you said, going to ruin us? I'm like, I think we're already ruined. I think we've always been like this, right? Like we're always in a sense trying to cheat our way through everything because it's in our best interest to do so, right? You know, self-preservation, that kind of thing, right? Um, in fact, I just saw this thing, and we'll talk about it next week about jobs, about people who
Mm.
constantly change their jobs are much better off than people who stay in a job and do a really good job for a long period of time.
Mm.
Right? Wild, right? Well, you would think it's very counterintuitive
Mm.
to
Mm.
be good, to be, you know, loyal and all this other stuff is what we say is good, when actually no, it's you say screw this place and I'm out of here, right? We've both been there before, at least voluntarily or not. You know, but again, it seems like a terrible decision if we looked it up, you know, asked GPT, hey, you know, should I, you know, I can't stand my job. What should I do, generative AI? I mean, I'm sure it would have plenty of stuff, right? But the emotional part is going to be lacking, right? Anyway, I don't know. Maybe that's my catch-all is that people are
Mm.
always the interesting part, and these are just tools that we invented to, you know, I don't know, mix it up a bit as we get older. Who
Mm.
knew, right? Whoever knew that lunar lander would become
Mm.
ubiquitous and everyone, you know, everyone would be aware of it, right? That's
Mm.
what we, you know, everyone is aware that these things exist. Whereas when, you know, early adopters like us, we're like, yeah, these are weird tools, you know? Neither of us are sure what they do. They're weird. They change all the time, right? Uh, do they affect how we make decisions? Well, I decided to spend more time thinking about it. I guess but that's emotional because I like that. You know, that's an emotional attachment to this stuff. I like writing about it. I like talking about it with you, you
Mm.
know? Whereas I'm not thinking of it in, and maybe you can please correct me, right? Like, are there situations you've been into where rationality wins? Like someone just had the best answer and that's, you know, the way the that's the way it went?
Yeah, well, so in my engineering head, right, I think that
Yeah.
we can kind of set this for another topic for another discussion, right? Because there is a mathematical field called the game theory, right, or
Hmm.
the equilibrium theory, which actually will kind of provide a model for all the rationalities and the irrationalities and the emotions.
Yes.
And
Love
and
game
John
theory.
Nash equilibrium will kind of
Yeah.
tell you that, hey, no matter what happens, whether you try to be this way or that way, the decision or the strategic situation that you are involved in will kind of arrive at its own equilibrium, right? Even in the presence of irrational players, right? So
Yes,
so
it will. Yeah.
so yeah, so maybe maybe that's another topic, but yeah, maybe. But again, if those theories are accurate, right, or describe emotions or lack of thereof, then again, it's a moot point, right? I mean, the emotions can be modeled, and we can say, hey, the AI doesn't have it today, but it would be very
Mm.
easy to actually infuse those models into their behaviors.
Well, that brings up another good point, which is as a motivator, which is can we program AI to start to mess with us? You see what I mean? Like, could it be an agent that, hey, Michael, you're oversleeping again. Get out of bed. Oh, wait, you didn't floss. Apparently, they ask you about flossing, which is so weird. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
it could
mm,
be a nagging. Um, I just wonder because I think they already do that. I already have all these devices, right? I just ignore them all the time. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like I do what I want to do. And if I find things are not going well, I don't blame the computer, but maybe God, okay, so our next scenario, next time we talk,
mm,
We need to talk about jobs because that's been in there for a minute or so, right? Because that's interesting in itself. This is still
Yeah.
interesting, but I think you bring up a point is if game theory is something we play against other people, which we do, can AI use game theory to mess with us? I don't know, man. I don't think I can't really see that happening, but I don't know. We'll put that as as maybe we're again seeing the future, right? You know,
Yep.
AI agents telling Jack he needs to spend a little bit more time on the workout machine or something. I don't know. Again, it's got to have so much awareness of bad behavior. I don't know. You don't want to take it back though, do you? You still believe. You're a believer. You're an engineer. I like it.
Well, as long as you can create a model, that model can be executed on your watch or on a supercomputer, and it's still it's still possible. Yeah.
I like it. The prisoner's dilemma, always the best, right? Should we cooperate or should we not?
Exactly.
Right? And there it is. It's will we accept this technology into our hearts or not? Interesting. Always great, Jack. Thank you. I've been excited to talk over this topic, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. Thank you. See you next time.
Next time.